Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. And today I would love to make a kind of different video than I actually do. My YouTube channel and my actual YouTube themes, topics are not always like in the same category. They're not the same topic all over again. Why am I not looking at the camera? And yeah, my topics are always different because I think it's I think it's because, first of all, it's my YouTube channel, I can do whatever I wanna, and second of all, it's because I would love actually to cover many topics which are either taken from my life, my experiences, my journeys, my languages, everything that is kind of circling around my own life. But today I would love to make a different topic. I mean, it's quarantine. Why not talking about that, right? I mean, why not cover this topic too? Not many of you may know, or actually maybe none of you knows, that I'm studying Japanology at the Goethe University in Frankfurt. And yeah, because when I wanted to apply for the first semester last year, I didn't exactly know what kind of language skill I do have to enter this university, what exactly will be the topics, what am I supposed to study, what will be the things I will study. And I thought maybe especially for my German friends, you may excuse me that I'm not talking in German today. That's because I think many people who also have the chance to study Japanology in other countries, English-speaking countries. I don't even know if you guys have the subject Japanology, but I'm pretty sure in some countries it's the case. It's not only Germany. I cannot imagine that it's only Germany. And yes, because I didn't know how exactly to start, I can cover for you my bachelor studies, my bachelor career, which just started last year. I'm currently in my second semester, and yeah, this whole video today will be about the first semester. Okay, how about if we just get started? I started to study Japanology last October from the first semester. That was the winter semester, and during this time, I actually entered this university because I need a university degree to have the chance to live one day in Japan, and because I don't want to rely on my boyfriend, who is Japanese, in case you guys didn't notice. And yeah, because I don't want to rely on him and being dependent on him, I thought I'll get my university degree, because without a university degree you have a really hard time to have a job and get a job in Japan. I mean, unless you speak the language fluently, which is in my case not the case. Yeah. And yeah, I thought it might be a good idea to have my university degree so that I don't have someone who is having the troubles to pay for me for everything and stuff like that. I want to be an independent woman. I mean,
I'm strong, I'm Russian. We are like strong from the nature, it's like our talent.
And yeah, this semester was not like I expected it to be. I thought there will be like a huge amount of kanji and studies and stuff like that, but I have to say it was not as much as I expected it to be, because I already have not the hugest knowledge of Japanese, but I've been studying on my own for I think 3 years now. I could have had I had the chance to study it earlier, but never did. And after my working holiday in Japan, the 1 year I made, if you wanna know exactly what I did there, You can comment below. I would love to tell you about that too, what exactly I did.
How I worked, where I worked, what I did. Did I travel? Didn't I travel?
And yes, because I thought the kanjis will be difficult and stuff like that, but basically it's just really how they say it. The language course, which is separated in 3 sections. It's listening and understanding, the grammar, and the last one is reading, usually just some kind of a book which the professor took from somewhere, which he thinks it's a good idea to read it. And yeah, I started to worry about it very early, so I started like shaking and thinking what kind of a kanji is expecting me. The language course itself, which is one part of the studies, is not the problem. I remember when they told us we have to study the second part of it. It's Japanese culture and Japanese, like the origins of Japanese culture. It's starting somewhere from the Jomon period. You can watch so many videos online here on YouTube what a Jomon is, what a Kofun time is, and stuff like that. And yes, I had the chance to have an insight into that. But the problem was not studying itself. I mean, the first problem was when our professor said we have to read like at least 150 pages, which he really posted online. We had to read it, we had to understand it, and we had to learn the kanji which were inside. And that's where the problem started, because the kanjis which were inside, they're not for the beginners. And the whole Japanology started from the first semester. I didn't skip a semester, so it has to start somewhere in the beginning, and it didn't in this case. We had to learn kanjis about religions, different kinds of religions, different kinds of books which were produced in Japan, like in the medieval ages, in the ancient world, stuff like that. And after the first exam, which was like 50% of those kanjis we had to learn, and I didn't learn them at all. And to be honest, if I didn't spend my year in Japan and had already seen those kanjis somewhere, it wouldn't be possible for me to write this exam. That's why from, I think, 46 people, only 9 people passed. I was one of them, but I passed like freaking close. I mean, I was close. We had to reach, I think, 60%, and I reached 61 point something or 62. And that's only because I already saw those kanjis and I could write it, because the other part, like the other 50% of the exam, were pretty easy peasy lemon squeezy if you read all the books they posted, which is also kind of ridiculous, the amount of, I mean, of course it's studying, but they kind of forget about the fact that we also have our minor. In my case, it's the classical archaeology, and there's also a lot of things to read and to memorize. I mean, by that point I had like Macedonian, ancient world, the Minoans, and all kinds of stuff which is like from Alexander the Great and blah blah blah, everything combined. But I also had to read a lot and also to memorize a lot, and that's the problem, because kind of seemed to me that the professor who was teaching the Japanese culture and the origins of Japanese culture, he thought like it's only his subject is the only subject, like it's not a part of a huge Japanology bachelor career. It's only this part which he's like giving us to read and to study. The exams from my language course, I mean, I don't want to brag, but I think I reached 97 points. That was only the case, like I said, because I already knew some kanjis from Japan, and I didn't need to study at all, actually, for this one. It wasn't a like electronical part where you sit and like you just have to choose from the drop-down menu, which is that's actually way too easy. I mean, even if you don't speak the language, you kind of can decide what it could be. So you didn't have to like type it in or something like that. Then you have like the writing part, and the writing part is kind of threw me out of my thinking path, let's say it this way, because I studied the kanjis. I can read them. I for sure can read them, but I cannot write them. I can type them in my phone. Yeah, for sure I can recognize as kanji and I can type it, but writing is like, that's not, no. For example, that was a word, isogu, which means to be late, and osieru, which means to teach. I know exactly how those kanjis look like, the words, but I couldn't write them. And that was like a huge problem too. Now that was for my major, the Japanology. And usually the professor is always posting something. We had like a learning platform, and still the case, of course. And they post it there, you download it, you read it, you work on it on your own. And then in class, you still can have like questions. If you have them, you can ask them, right? Except for this professor in Japanese origins of the culture and stuff like that. And you have to, at least in Germany and my university, you have to buy a book. The fucking expensive book. It's the Genki one for semester 1. And even in the second semester, you'll continue to have like some lessons which are left over, and you have to first finish them. And then you start. I don't have the first one book, I already sold it. First time when I opened it up, I was like, let's open up the last 100 pages. Let's read them. And if you are able to understand it, that book is not for you, because you just threw away your money. That was just a waste. And exactly that was the case. I saw the last pages and I was like, I already know that one, so why am I supposed to keep this book? So I sold it. I sold it to someone a little bit cheaper. And now, because I know exactly that it will be a little bit more difficult, it'll get more difficult, that's pretty obvious. I mean, I've been there for a year, but it doesn't mean that I speak the language fluently, not at all. あんまり上手じゃないですよね。だから勉強しています。And in the second one, in the second semester, which started this April, thank you quarantine, I cannot go to university anymore. Actually pretty good, because my boyfriend was here for 3 months, and I mean, I cannot complain. Well, this will be the second book you have to buy, and it's also fucking expensive. It's 47 euro, I think, and in my case, every single time when I visited schools in Germany, even the higher classes, basically either the book was cheap, which you had to buy for the classes, which was the case for my English lessons when I did my A level, and I think the rest you could have just lent somewhere in the library. But in this case, we had to buy our own, and yeah, I bought it. There is also a workbook for that, but I don't need it. We don't need it. Our professors never required that. And yeah, it comes with a CD. I never touched the CD because we listen to all of those kaiwas, which means the dialogues. We listen it in our listening and understanding section. And yeah, it's like a very good book. I have to admit, it's a very good book. Pretty organized. I mean, like, everything is quite good, with a lot of practicing exercises and stuff like that. But I think Japanese from Zero from George Trombley would be much better, and also much cheaper. And basically, this is in English. I mean, this is in English. For my German fellows there, ihr müsst darauf gefasst sein, dass es auf Englisch ist. Also es ist nicht auf Deutsch. And that was like a small disclaimer for my German fellow students. And the books which are provided for the other sections, for example, in the second semester now I have still the same language course, still divided in the same categories, like in the same sections. But now we don't have the Japanese culture and the origin of Japanese culture. Now we have Japanese literature and the culture of the literature, where it came from, how it developed over the years. You have to be prepared to read a freaking lot, and you have to be prepared to learn a lot of kanjis in this area. Not the actual language course, where it's actually pretty not easy. I mean, the kanjis are kind of difficult now, also getting difficult for me, but it's easier to remember them rather than remembering all the kanjis which you have to study for that particular subject, for this particular section. And I have to admit it, I mean, the whole studies until now make fun, because now I'm at home, I don't need to go to university. I mean, I'm still paying my price. But yeah, I think itself, it makes, I mean, like did I just wanted to speak in German? I mean, it makes fun, but you have to be prepared that you have to read a lot of kanjis. Now, I know that seems to be kind of unorganized. It's because this video is spontaneous. I didn't write down anything, but I just can give you a small conclusion. And first semester, be prepared to have the language course divided in 3 sections: listening and understanding, reading, and the grammar. This is something that requires, in the second semester especially, a lot of kanji. And for the beginners, for the first semester, I would say that you guys, before you enter before you step on the first day to the university, that you already study some kanjis, like the basics, like today, tomorrow, yesterday, stuff like that. That will help you a lot. In my case, I could have skipped this particular language because I was more advanced than a beginner. I still didn't skip it because I was pretty unsure and insecure if I can make it. But for people who, for example, do you guys know the Japanese language proficiency test? If no, then Google this up. It assesses your levels of how high your Japanese is, and I'm basically somewhere on the N4 level. N5 is like the lowest, and N1 is like the native speaker, and I'm like somewhere in the N4 section, and they start like where N5 is. So if you are somewhere that you can have like a normal daily conversation, you can be prepared for the case that you can skip it. I would not recommend it though. For the second one, you don't need to apply for that one for the Japanese culture and the origins of Japanese culture, where you study about Japanese, like how do you call it, like the history, when it started, exactly where it started, who their gods are, what kind of a religion they have, which religions came from the outside, what happened during the 200 years when they secluded the whole country from other people from the world, until the Americans showed up. And Bill Wirtz already summarized it pretty good. I can put his link down there. I mean, that guy summarizes everything perfectly fine, and he made it also on the history of Japan. That will be your first semester, and actually going to university will be a rare case. You don't have to go that often. And in the second semester, you still don't go. I mean, now I don't go anyways because of Corona, but in this case, I still would be able to stay longer at home, because the lessons at the university are not long. It's the time you invest when you're back home to read all the books, to write down in case you still have to make some notes, which is in my case now the case. Is that even? What's that sentence? And yes, this will be also the same case in the second semester, except that you are studying about the literature. I mean, you also don't have to apply for that. This is obligatory. I mean, this is something that you do voluntarily, but you have to be sure that when the 6 semesters, which is like 3 years for the bachelor, when they are over, you have to have done those topics. And I just simply apply every single semester so that I'm done after 3 years, so that I don't have to spend more time. And yeah, and I guess that's something that is for Japanology. If you have some questions, you can ask them down below. I can make maybe a little bit better video, but I don't think it's the case. I mean, I explained everything pretty fine. Study a lot of kanjis, right? If you have questions, I mean, I still can answer them in the section where the comments, this comment section below. If you want to know about my minor, the classical archaeology, I can also make a video on that. And when I finish my second semester, I can again give you like an overview. I mean, this video is supposed to be about the first semester, but I kind of also included the second one because the second one will be over next month and nothing new came to that. I mean, nothing really changed. And from this, from the third semester, I can tell you how it's going to be and what else you have to do, like after 5 or 6 semesters, what kind of possibilities you have to go abroad and stuff like that, which I actually had in my mind as a plan. Another plan is ruined, not because of corona, but because of money issues. But this is something that is another topic, and I would love to cover it another day. And until now, I would love to say goodbye, and yeah, prepare your kanjis in case you want to study Japanology.